Hey, Laurel.
Hey, Jessa.
Who's our guest today?
We have Jeremy there with 7th C. Thank you for joining us. I
Absolutely.
hopefully I'm not too delayed on my video here, but I think we're all caught up. Thanks for joining.
You're good. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And how are we connected, Jessa?
Well, we actually were referred to Jeremy, and we were referred by Opolis. And I don't know why all of a sudden I'm just drawing a blank. Why can I not remember?
Oh, James.
James
Merrill.
Merrill.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, Jessa, this is not the time to forget a name because I'm usually very good with names. But so we were introduced to there's too many J's. So Jared introduced us to James, who introduced us to Jeremy.
That is
And
a lot of J's.
I know, but it's so fun because we get to talk to all these really cool businesses, and they're like, you know who you should talk to next. And James introduced us to Jeremy and the work you're doing with 7th C, and we have been able to connect with you before this, and so excited for you to be on here and share the work you're doing. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I'm so appreciative of both of you for having me and giving myself and 7th C this opportunity to help spread the message just a little bit more. So thank you.
Yeah. And so we'll just kind of dive into it. And, we've been talking to you about your work today, but can you I'd like to start off with like your journey, like how you got to where you're at today, which I know I'm sure is, I'm going to make a guess that's over 20 years, but if you can kind of give us a little bit of, where you got started in your career and in your passion that's led you to founding 7th C.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a long one, of course. Yeah, definitely over 20 years, but I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. So when I started my career out of college, I honestly I didn't know what I wanted to do. So that was the first time that I decided to travel alone. And traveling alone, for those of us who have done it, it's quite an amazing thing. You meet people you never even dreamed that you'd meet, and you find yourself in situations that really give you an opportunity to see the best in people. And so I went and I did that, and it really opened my eyes. I spent a month in Costa Rica, and just amazing down there. I came back and I ran into an old friend, actually one of my best friends, his stepfather, and he had a really good thing going on in insurance. And so I felt like I could help people. Like I said, I wasn't really sure what I really wanted to do, and so I did it. And then 8 years later, I kind of had one of those moments that we all I think have, where I had to ask myself, is this really me? And of course, for me it wasn't. And so I decided to basically let go of everything in the industry and sell my book of business, and just went on walkabout again. And so that was the beginning of a massive journey. That was nearly 3 years ago. And I saw 9 countries in Asia, starting in Nepal down through India and Sri Lanka, and then over to Southeast Asia and down to Australia. Australia was the 10th country. And again, it was just so many great experiences. I was by myself, so was rescued by locals in more ways than one.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Jeremy. Like, what is your favorite walkabout story where a stranger helped you in some way, or some like ridiculous moment?
Well, there's many ridiculous moments, and times where being alone, I got scared or nervous for no reason at all. But the big one, and that applies to 7th C, actually was when I was on Siargao. I was there and Siargao is where our main operations are right now, where we're cleaning up daily. And so I was there for a short period of time. I was only on the island for a week. And like day 2 or something, I finally get a motorbike, and I'm sitting in this like this restaurant that's, you know, just palm leaves and basically like a makeshift roof. And anyway, I'm starving. I hadn't eaten anything all day. And I sit down, I've got my barbecue in front of me, and then the earth starts shaking. So earthquake is happening, and I'm just looking around. Being from California, as you both know, I'm just waiting it out to see how bad it's going to get. If I need to run out, and there were people running out of the restaurant, and I'm like, I just got my food. I think it's going to be okay. And so yeah, it passed, and then the waiter walks by afterward, and he's like, "Oh, that's so strange. That never happens here." Of course, he was being sarcastic, but it got in my head. And honestly, I felt my mom on my shoulder, in my ear, like, get to high ground, get to high ground. Yeah. And so I just jumped on my motorbike and just started driving. The next day I realized that I was nowhere near high ground. The entire time I'm just driving through the night. So after probably like 20 minutes or so, I come to an intersection, and I'm just looking, trying to see which way to go. And a lady comes out from her house. She could tell I was in some sort of distress. And her name's Janet. And she's like, you know, what's up? What's going on? And I'm like, is there an earthquake, or is anybody worried about tsunamis? And yeah. So she jumps on the motorbike with me. I can't get any service, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on. She takes me down where I can get service. I literally called my mom and tried to see if there was any information on, you know, earthquake. It's the Ring of Fire. This happens every day.
And then you're like running around the island, like being terrified, and this woman rescues you. And
and she ends up becoming, you know, one of our supporters on the island. She's been in almost, and her family have been in almost every cleanup. The next day I went back to thank her, and her whole family, everybody jumps on motorbikes. We end up going and surfing for like the afternoon, and just they've been great. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah,
and do a whole podcast on stories I have like this, because I'm a very scared person.
We all are to some degree, and yeah, but that's what I found when I traveled is that in those moments where you think you're in trouble, and somebody comes along, and you end up meeting people and making these lifelong friendships that you just never saw coming.
That's so funny. I was just thinking this, a quick little anecdote when you were talking about your mom. I have a very similar thing, and I just sent my mom this meme yesterday, and it was like it was a meme about like hurricane in the Indian Ocean. You get a text from your mom. I heard there's a hurricane in the Indian Ocean. Are you okay? Which is like a text I would get from my mom being here in San Diego. Like, you know, so
yeah, cut from a similar cloth.
Yeah, I said that to my mom. She's like, "What are you trying to tell me?" I'm like, "What's going on, Mom?" Anyway, I digress. Well, so like, okay, so you're going on this journey, and you're meeting all these people, doing to have all these really cool experiences, and probably like, you know, questioning, like, I'm assuming, like, what does life mean? What am I here for? And
yeah, I mean, that's what Walkabout is all about, right? And
wait, let me step back. What is a walkabout? Like, what's the difference between going on a trip and going on a walkabout?
So, I mean, you know, my understanding of it is, you know, originated in Australia with native Australians. And really it's an interesting concept. I think that a lot of us have sort of lost touch with in our communities, that, you know, when we were of a certain age, these rites of passage where when you got to upper adolescence or whatever, young adulthood, you had to go out amongst basically go fend for yourself. And I think that the purpose really is finding yourself getting back to yourself in a way, because there's something that happens in that age, you know, our early teens or whatever it may be, that we start looking outside ourselves for who we are, but it's not outside ourselves, it's in here. So at 33 years old, I'd done Walkabout before, but I didn't get everything that I needed out of it. And then I went back and again started looking outside myself for what was right for me. And so I needed to go on a big walkabout. So that was 5 months.
Wow.
And you're absolutely right. I think you depicted it well, that it's soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I was a young teenager, we did not a walkabout, but one of the rites of passage was going to Kairos. And Kairos was meant to be a time for your internal self and exploration. And at the time, I really, it was just a bunch of Catholicism. Like the Kairos itself was just a really big Catholic rite of passage. But now I reflect back on it, and it's all internal, spiritual. Who am I? Where am I going? Free yourself from these chains that you've put on yourself that don't need to be there. And yeah. I think maybe similar to a Rumspringa, maybe similar to, you know what I mean? Just
what was the last? What was the last thing? A rum what?
Rumspringa, like the Amish, when they get to a certain age, they're given an opportunity to go out of their community and see what quote unquote the other like life is. And I think that's right. That's translatable to many different traditions, many different religions. It's this this crux that you come to, and like you did on your journey, you're like, I'm at a crux, I'm fending for myself. What is this that's important to me? And I hear you say some of the things that came through on your journey was you were so vulnerable in just being yourself, being scared, be on your motorbike, and allowing someone to witness your vulnerability and help you. And I just want to honor you for doing that, because many people would just suffer in silence. And you were like, okay, I'm going to let this woman on my motorbike, we're going to bond. And then you even took it a step further. And now that human is a part of your soul tribe that is with you in Seventh Seas. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, just so lucky for her and for the multitude of people who've come out of the woodwork to support Seventh Sea and myself. It's truly a blessing. Yeah.
Tell us what it is then. Yeah, let's get into Seventh Sea. Yeah. What is it that you do and why?
So really it's the why. So along the journey, the other thing that I noticed, other than having these great experiences with the locals, was of course trash everywhere. And you know, it's really no different than here. We notice it. Our environment is a little bit better manicured, but you know, overseas, especially along the equator and all these islands, they act like nets. And you know, our trash from all over the world ends up washing up on these beaches. And so like I said, a big part of that walkabout was getting back to myself. I like to think of it as getting back to my 5-year-old self. What do I really value? And I was reminded of, as I saw all this trash, and I've always wanted to do something about it. And I truly believe that we all want to do something about it. Just comes down to time, really. You know, we all want to be part of beach cleanups, and we do from time to time, but do we do it as often as we'd like? No. So we need more opportunity to help. And so when I got back, I thought about it, and, you know, I realized all these people who were so kind to me and have helped me, why don't I help create jobs overseas, picking up the trash that we all see all the time. So I missed this part, but the idea came to me when I was probably 14 or 15, surfing here in California. I always pick up trash, and then I leave the beach, and you have to tear yourself away from it, literally, because if you keep looking down, you'll just see more and more. And so yeah, seventh C, it's all about buying time. So, we create an opportunity to buy time by providing sustainable, ethically made products. And each one of those gives one of our sea saviors a day to clean, an entire day.
When we were getting to know you, what jumped out to me was that it was kind of like jobs first. Well, I mean, obviously it's inspired by the waste that the waste that we have put into the earth system. We, the royal big we, have put into the earth's system, and it washes up on these islands. And your idea is, okay, there's a problem, there's a bunch of waste that's really bad, we're doing it. And you're like, instead of just hiring a bunch of Americans to go travel and on their vacay or their corporate retreat pick up trash, not saying that those aren't valuable, but it's not that. You're saying, I'm going to create jobs in this local community so that I can build them up and bring awareness. And the way that I engage people from other communities and bring awareness to the trash that we're all creating is by selling these products that fund those jobs in the first place. And so it's sort of your own little miniature economy that you're creating.
Exactly. Yeah. And just the further that that economy grows, the more locations we can set up. So after this is Bali, and there's a massive problem on Bali, of course, that we all know about. And then after that, we'll go Dominican Republic and Namibia. Hawaii will be kind of a California-esque location. And so that's the plan. We're launching our crowdfunding on May 11th through Indiegogo, and everything from that is going towards launching our actual product sales, which will come within about a month of the campaign ending on June 11th. And so product development, mass marketing campaign, opening those next locations. I'd really love to have all of them open by the end of the year. That's my goal. There's 10 of us now. So I have help to open those locations as well. Our head of business development, Sarah Murato. She's amazing. Just absolutely beautiful human. Another person who I met on the island, she just through a friend, she was at our first cleanup, and she basically ran it for me because the first one that I had ever done, and she kind of took over. She must have sensed my it was my first time, and she's a total boss. So she'll be helping open the other locations as well.
And when you talk about this and creating jobs, cleaning up beaches, to buy time. So what's being done with that time? Like what's going on, I guess, or what should be going on in parallel to doing the cleanup work?
In parallel to cleanup work, a lot of is working with the community, because the first thing is actually picking it up. But while we're out there, one thing that's really cool is the community sees what we're doing, and they almost always come out and start helping, especially the little kids. And it's just, if there's anything that I could say is the coolest part of all of this, it's that they don't even think about it. They just come right out and like, this is what we're doing, so let's do it. And same thing with their parents, and they get involved. But the other side of it is working directly with local governments, to make sure that not only everything that we pick up is disposed of or repurposed or recycled in the right way, and other NGOs, but also that the community leaders are helping us trickle the message down into the communities. But really, we do a lot of that as well. One of the initiatives that I want to start really soon is our C schools, 7th C schools. So I want to, not just for, promoting sustainability, but getting people involved with the ocean. I mean, one of the things that you realize when you're traveling is that just because you live on an island doesn't mean you know how to swim. It doesn't mean you spend time in the ocean. And so we want to start a surf school, like 7 Seas snorkelers and sailors and all this stuff. I like to use alliteration. So, if
Big
I can.
alliteration fan here. Big.
Yeah. So.
Well, like, as I'm thinking about this and the work you're doing and the source of the plastic, is it what you're seeing? You said that some is from the US. Is this a result? And I don't know if you know this, so sorry if I'm on the spot. Is this a result of things being polluted in the water here that are going through the oceans, getting washed up in other areas, or a result of us outsourcing our trash and recycling to other countries?
It's both. And it's also, I thought you were going to say, is it also, to some degree, the local waste management issues as well.
Yeah, I get
it's
all of it. How do we stop the source?
Yeah, we need to use a lot less, of course, but that comes with education. So, when we're working with the community, we're teaching them things and providing alternatives that is going to help their waste problem minimize. So what's coming into the waterways from the land and reaching the ocean, that's one way of going about it. And then the other that you were referencing, that gets from currents and everything gets washed up on the shore. So we're picking that up as well. And in addition, yeah, we ship a lot of our trash all over the world, out of sight, out of mind. And yeah, it's not a good thing. But yes, we're picking up that trash as well because they don't have the infrastructure to deal with that.
Yeah, that's like what I think about is, thank you for doing this, by the way, because it's such a big problem and it's so overwhelming that it can be hard to even know where to start. But I think just starting somewhere, and then
that stops a lot of people is just starting. But we need to think in terms of progress. We're very like goal oriented. Like if we can't get there tomorrow, then we don't want to do it. And this applies to a lot of different concepts, whether it's what we're eating, how we consume in general is something that each one of us, can take into consideration. And again, we don't need to be perfect ever. We just need to try, it's good for us all.
Well, I think, yes. And I love the idea of the program that you're thinking, it's like starting with like local education, and, or I should say, implementing local education as part of this, because it sounds like such a Sisyphean task to clean up the pollution that's going into the waterways and then just having it cycled back in. And so being able to like see that complete picture and, kind of the circular effect of it, I think is so critical for, like you said, your progress. And then, as the United States, I think we really, really, and this is something Laurel and I are very big on, is like bringing awareness to issues. And because it's like, once you know about it, it's hard to ignore it and what you will, but at least bring awareness. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, is that our trash is exported. And on top of that, other countries are stopping to, or I should say recycling, which is, let's face it, is trash for the most part. And other countries they've stopped purchasing that. And there's this, whatever, I could go on about this forever, but I just think, like it's so great that you had the ability to travel and see this firsthand, the impacts of that. And I think for a lot of us, it's so out of sight, out of mind, overwhelming, and, knowing where to start. And I think for all of us, it's just a reminder, like reduce, reuse.
Yeah, definitely. And every little bit that we all do, the more aware we become. Like you had referenced, the awareness factor has grown massively. And that's one of those exponential things that you can't measure. The more people get on board, the more people are conscious of these issues. That's what really led me to do this, is knowing at heart, we all care. We care about it and we want to do something about it, but we need organizations that we trust, that are going to continue to get the message out, not only get the message out, but also really do what they say they're going to do. And show that they're doing it and get people even more involved. So another large part of our organization is the content that we create. And my good friend Sean Farkas, who I actually also met on the island, and he lives in Venice. He's done a great job with our social media and our marketing, and he's really an artist. And so the content that he creates and also facilitates from our other content creators, that's so important, using social media and all YouTube, everything to get that out there, and to have it in such a way that it pulls people in and attracts people, and just gets them to listen just for a little bit. And then we slowly start making changes personally. And then that goes a really long way.
You guys need to do a documentary. I don't know if we talked about this, but it seems very like Netflixy. We were talking about some ones before this, but like a Netflix documentary style. Like,
I'm up for anything.
Let's do it. Got to get Zac Efron on. Zac Efron. Any connections? We need to get Zac Efron with his show to Laurel Project, the lithium mine, and then to Seventh Sea.
Yeah. Yes, just high five, Zac Efron. We're here, inviting you to our projects to enhance your series. And I will say that, before we started talking, as Jessa mentioned, we were talking another documentary, and I think that to your Venetian friend, or the guy that lives in in Venice, that helps you with your work. It's crucial to tell the story in a way that engages people and sticks in a proper, loving way. And I think one idea that popped up for me, when I look at the plastic that I have in my hand and in my house, it's really easy for me to go to the blue bin right out here and go, okay, it's taken care of. Well, now we know that when you put it in the blue bin, it's actually not taken care of, because nobody's going to buy that anymore. And now if you look at that item that you think you're going to recycle, and think of it as exporting an environmental pollution or exporting an environmental impact to a more disadvantaged community than your own. So you're taking that plastic, and it goes to the whole point of Jessa about reducing and reusing first, because when you actually generate that item, it doesn't just disappear when you put it in the blue bin. Now it actually is taking that negative footprint and impact and putting it into a community that definitely doesn't have the resources to take care of it, that needs the Seventh Sea folks to step in and take care of it. And I find that idea of environmental justice, where we are constantly polluting vulnerable, marginalized communities because it's cheaper to do so, and then it keeps them cheap and keeps them poor, so that we keep doing it, and it's this gnarly cycle, instead of doing a Seventh Sea notion where you move it over to being a positive cycle, a more virtuous cycle than that.
I couldn't agree more. And again, this is something that, again, people are waking up to in a big way right now. We've been through a really hard time, but I think that it's, all of us as a people. But I think that it's made a lot of us much more aware of what we do in all areas of our life, and that kind of awareness and how we're all connected. You just made me think of James again, and Olith. And so the other side of that is, once it's in the blue bin, it can become something else. That's what we, not only do we need to be cutting down what we use in a massive way, and I believe we are, but we can make cool stuff with this that we can use again. We don't need to, it definitely, it costs a little bit more, but that's where our awareness and our hearts come into play, and also imagination, which I think is something else that I feel like we lack at times. We need to get creative again, and we are. But all of us, one thing I'm hoping that this does is it inspires people to do the same thing, because Seventh Sea, though I see it going somewhere great, we're just a very small piece of the puzzle, and everyone, should have their own version of this. We all have ways to help people and help the environment and give back, just like you two are doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that, and I appreciate you bringing up James at Opolis Optics. For our listeners, what you're demonstrating is it doesn't have to go into the blue bin, or if it does, then we can make it into something better. We can upcycle it into something else, a durable good that doesn't end up, in the ocean and then on some island that didn't have anything to do with it in the first place. That idea of imagination and innovation, not to get all patriotic, but that's why we're here, right? That's the American dream. Is like we started our economy from coming up with new ways of doing things, and like, let's just get out of our own way and come up with, like, I keep saying the word life, but what I'm trying to get at is is there is no such thing as waste, because it can be used.
It definitely can be. Yeah, there's really like on the island there are 4 different types of waste, and really only one of them cannot be that has to go to landfill, really. So most things we can repurpose, or it can be composted, or recycled. But I think that and maybe people have gotten the wrong message about that in some ways, that repurposing and recycling, even reusing, that it's not as viable as it actually is, but it is. And I think people are relearning that. So I remember being kids and recycled, reduce, reuse, and everything. I was probably my 5-year-old self at that time.
It's funny. I like growing up, I remember my grandmother, who grew up, the Depression maybe, or with parents who were in the Depression, something like that, with, scarcity of resources. And she would always reuse like Cool Whip tubs and bread bags. And I'm like, Grandma, but now I'm doing that myself. I'm like, oh, this is a dog bag, and this is a to-go container, and like glass jars. And I've just started doing this, like, I would say the last, maybe 6 to 12 months. And like you said, behavior is changing. Like mine have changed, and just looking at things differently. And now, like, I bristle at some of the things that I used to throw away and not think twice about it. So it's the awareness. And I kind of want to pivot just a little bit.
Real quick before you do, don't you feel so much more creative and resourceful when you do that, rather than just reaching for the next thing, tossing it? Like, you can feel good about doing it in more ways than one.
I'm patting myself on the back, posting it to Instagram. Hey guys, look how good I am.
Posting it to Instagram. Nice.
No, I do feel good, but I also feel like, oh, I should have been doing this for a long time. And now,
progress.
But I was gonna say, I can't even look at a plastic water bottle anymore. I'm like, who's still buying these? But I know people are, and it's anyway.
It's brutal, and the fact that we've gotten used to ingesting that, thinking that we're not getting anything in our system from the plastic. That's where I'll leave it at this. Our next post on Instagram is probably going to change a couple minds about drinking from plastic water bottles.
All right. You guys heard it here first. Watch 7C's Instagram. I know I will. I follow you guys. We'll repost it when we see it. And
thank you.
And so something I wanted to talk about is when you hear about 7C and the business model, I'm making an assumption that people will make an assumption that it's a nonprofit. And that's something Laura and I talk a lot about, is the idea of using for-profit business for good and having sustainable, regenerative, stakeholder-focused models. And so can you talk and explain the idea of 7C and the business model that you're using, and how you guys are being able out? I know you're doing a crowdfunding project, but how you'll be able to fund the operations?
Right. Well, the this is all going to be at some point transparent on our site. The big thing that I believe in is everyone being able to see actually where all the money is going, even as a for-profit company. I think that's where not-for-profits and nonprofits, people stop trusting them, because if you can't really see that something is happening with what you're giving them and putting towards these causes, of course people are going to lose heart. And so the most important thing is that we're always showing what we do, that we're actually doing it. And so I'm sorry, I kind of lost track of your question a little bit.
Oh, I was just asking to, explain the business model, because you guys are for profit, but
right.
it might be assumed that you're a nonprofit, but at the same time, it's like for profits can do good in doing transparency and how you guys are going to fund your operations.
Right. So the big thing is, again, showing people that we're doing what we actually say we're going to do. So a big part of our budget goes into creating content that is always new and showing people that we're doing what we say we're going to do. And later on, we'll be able to link people who, through memberships and things like that, to actually be able to make a call and talk to a Sea Savior. Like if you buy a shirt or a hoodie or something like that from us, which that'll be some of our signature apparel, ethically made, sustainably sourced. And also I'd like to give a shout out to Strive, who's our manufacturer in Los Angeles, who they're amazing. Scott, they do everything right here in the States, which is just, they set the bar really high. So anyway, through memberships, through selling apparel and reusable things and sustainable products of our own. But in time, what we're going to do is we're going to build a marketplace with companies like Opolis, other companies like ours, where every single thing, not only is it sustainable and ethically made, but it's also going to give one of our Sea Saviors a day to clean as well. So the way I look at it is if we're truly giving back, we're truly doing what we say we're going to do. And like I said, everybody cares. And when they see that, we'll get the support that we need. And we have already. It's amazing.
Cool. So if like people are buying, for example, like your apparel and like a sweatshirt, the proceeds from that sweatshirt are going to the salary of the Sea Saviors to clean up the beaches.
Yeah, in general, like it's about 20% that goes directly towards cleaning beaches right off the top. Like if we're looking at a shirt, an organic cotton shirt that costs $50, $10 of that is going directly toward hiring somebody for a day. That's approximately what it costs in the Philippines to hire somebody to clean for a day. And by the way, that's a living wage. That's feeding a family, happy, insurances, everything all taken care of. So
that's awesome. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Like, okay, again, Jeremy, but is it a living wage?
Yes, living wage. And so again, it's about the transparency of it. Another 20% is going toward our marketing, another 20% toward business development, another product development. And I'm leaving something out. There's another 20% cushion in there, but essentially that's it.
Cool. Thank you for being so transparent with that.
Yeah.
I love it. That helps make it very clear. And I was going to say too, as you're talking about investing in marketing, and I think it's really interesting because, for example, if you're looking up like Charity Navigator, I know you guys aren't a nonprofit, but if you want to see transparency and someone sees 20% for marketing, it might be like, well, that's a high marketing budget. But I think what you said is critical. It's like the awareness.
It's not high enough for.
It's not marketing. It's like bringing it in and letting people know like what's going on.
I want to comment that it's a premium product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a premium product, and you're appropriately priced to take care of the people that you're taking care of, to take care of the environment that you're taking care of. And for some people, they may gawk and be like, I want to pay $50 for a t-shirt. And it's like, well, I would gawk at paying $10 for a t-shirt unless it was reused, unless it was already used.
a big part of it. Yeah. And for the people who are already in that market, that premium, that quality. And also, if you're looking at an organic shirt, we're cheaper than a lot of organic cotton shirts actually, and $10 of it guaranteed is going to hire somebody for a day for you. In essence, when you buy something from us, you're in essence hiring that person.
Exactly. That is that connection that I love. I feel like I'm involved in economic development in a community that I'm partly responsible for trashing.
True. Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's people who are taking responsibility. We know we're all connected, and we're becoming more and more aware of it. This is just an opportunity to do something about it. Really, it's honestly, I laugh in a way because it really is the simplest idea. A 5-year-old, my 5-year-old self would have said something like this. And that actually was when I was the question that came to mind, even when I was in high school and picking up trash on the beach, leaving when I was.
Oh, did the sound go out, Jessa?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I can't hear anything. Is it just me?
Yeah, Jeremy, we were like waiting with bated breath. It went out.
I know. Oh, you're on a roll. Can you hear us? Okay. So I think I'm going to. Sorry, guys. Bear with us one moment. But we, so what I was thinking about, as Jeremy sharing this with us, and about, this is an idea his 5-year-old self would have come up with, I think is so interesting, because it's, these, like, again, I go back to what I said earlier, is these problems are so big, they can seem very overwhelming to tackle. And there's some really big problems that people are working on, like, for example, the COVID vaccine, like science, like innovation, but you don't need to be, first in your class at like MIT or something to launch a business that improves the world. And I think approaching it with, I would say like a childlike viewpoint can make something that seems very complicated, very simple, and very, I would say, like achievable, and the ability to make progress. So I think that's really interesting in seeing things with fresh eyes, and frankly, probably even talking with children. I'm sure, like, if you have kids and you ask them, like, how do we pick up trash? Like, they would give you some very interesting, some feedback. Jeremy, are you back with us?
You're muted. Yeah, there you
go. Okay. I'm fully. That's weird. We were just saying how, the AirPods sometimes, but.
Yeah, this is not an advertisement for AirPods. We will say that.
So, I know I brought it up several times now, but that, getting back to what you really truly value. I hope that people listening can take that away, because we've all got those things that matter to us and have mattered our entire life. And, the ocean has just been, I love nature in any way. But the ocean has just been where I've spent a lot of time surfing, and I see that problem just like a lot of people do. And this is an idea that so many people have had. I just, this is just the way I'd like to make an impact for now. And then when 7C gets much larger, then I'll find, other ways to help and make a bigger impact.
What I'm hearing is you're leading from your authentic self, which is oftentimes your childlike wonder or the youth that's inside you. You've mentioned tapping into your 5-year-old self. What would that person say? And my 5-year-old self, I remember I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and when it was really cold in the wintertime, you could see the exhaust coming out of the cars, whereas in the summer you can't see it. But because I could see it and I brought awareness to it, I was like, isn't that gross? Like, that seems pretty gross, like, ew. And as a kid going ill, and that stuck with me forever, is that I just don't like trash. I don't like waste. I don't like pollution.
You instinctually know it. Those instincts are still there. They're exactly the same as before. We now know the science behind it. But when you were a kid, you're just like, that's not good.
It can't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it can't be good. I'm really excited to see what the kids of the future come up with, because I love the vision, the image I have in my mind of you guys cleaning up a beach and these kids just chipping in without even an afterthought. It's like, oh, this is what we're doing now. Let's pick this up. That's how I always felt. I would see people cleaning up trash on the side of the road, and I'm like, well, duh. And whenever I go buy trash I walk by it, trash on the side of the road, I can't not pick it up. Or like on a hike, I can't not pick it up. At the beach, I have to. Cigarette butts drive me nuts at the beach, like totally nuts.
But then sooner or later, you have to, like, to get off the beach, you have to like keep your head up. If you look down, you will be there all day.
It's so gnarly. And I want to kind of drive another kind of gross message home is in California, our storm sewer systems carry anything that's on the streets into the water, and it's not filtered. And in San Diego County, we have a really bad, we don't house our homeless. We don't take care of them nearly as well as we should. And we don't take care of the beach as much as we can. And we had a huge hepatitis outbreak because of the bad stuff getting into the water. And that's surfers going out, these people that love the environment, going out into the waves and enjoying Mother Nature and coming back with hepatitis. That's how disgusting it is. So imagine exporting that environmental impact to a community that doesn't have nearly as many resources as we do to take care of things. Imagine how much that negativity scales.
On the island, they have clinics, but there's actually there's no proper hospital even. And this is a surf capital. You know, Cloud 9 is there, world-class waves. That's what, you know, kind of put it on the map. And yeah, that's actually something that one day I'd like to help with, because I was also very sick for the first month and a half that I was there. I got an amoeba, stomach virus, and dengue fever, all in succession.
Oh my gosh. Are you okay?
20 pounds while I was there, and we were doing our first cleanups. And didn't matter if I was in air conditioning or outside, I was just sweating bullets.
Oh, that's awful.
But, you know, like I was saying, the challenge is when you follow these dreams, it doesn't mean the challenges are just going to step out of the way. I think the universe questioned or tested me. You know, how bad do you want this? And there were a couple nights where I was like, I think I gotta go home, or I gotta do something, because it was a little scary at times. Dengue messes with your head.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how do you take care of yourself?
You really immersed yourself.
you got to get into it all. How did I take care of myself?
Well, how do you in general, like as a business owner, getting over these hurdles and overcome these challenges, what are some of your entrepreneurial daily self-care habits?
I meditate as long as I can, pretty much every morning, as soon as I get out of bed. That's a massive one. And I have to stay balanced. I've always been very physical. I grew up playing ice hockey here in California and got to travel a lot just around here in Canada and whatnot. That was kind of the beginning of my travels. And then later got into jiu-jitsu and, you know, of course, surfing. There are all these different things that I like to do. But if you stop doing one for like a week, all of a sudden you're out of shape with it. So try to cycle all these things, yoga, my eating habits. You know, I've actually this entire kind of 3-year journey, I started intermittent fasting, and more recently I stopped eating meat altogether. But I'll reintroduce meat on a more balanced regimen. But and you know, that goes a lot to what we're saying in general. And I think that's why you asked the question is how do I stay balanced? So I definitely have had to learn again how important me time is, because and if I forget to exercise like after 3 days, then just don't feel right.
Yeah.
I wish I had that problem.
You don't like to exercise, or?
I like to be in a habit of exercising.
Yeah, when you're in the flow of it, you mean? Is that what you're getting at?
This isn't about me, Jeremy. So as much as I try to make it about myself. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And I think, I mean, I feel like we could probably get to our 3-point landing. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, unless there's anything else you want to share, we could wrap up with the 3-point landing, the 3 key takeaways.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we've touched on enough. One, I want to thank you both again so much for what you do, and inviting me to come on. So yeah, for takeaways, I think the biggest one really is I hope that this inspires people to find their 7th C, whatever it is to you, whatever that 5-year-old self is in yourself, to go find it, and don't be afraid, because it won't be easy, but your soul tribe will show up and help you along the way, and it's a beautiful thing. So don't be afraid to go on that search, go on Walkabout. And lastly, please support us, 7c.org. The crowdfunding's coming up on May 11th. We're doing pre-launch pledges right now, so if you want to get involved and check out what we're doing, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing and being so nice and saying thanks to us. I mean, it's really a mutual pleasure, isn't it? Just to get to talk about all the things where it's like, tell us your story and all these beautiful connections. I'm feeling really inspired by you, and I'm going to join your pre-launch pledges. I urge everybody else to go to 7thc.org, the for-profit business that's going to change our relationship and heal the sea.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Send it, Jessa.